and we have universal whole life policies, right? Or flexible premium adjustable life insurance. Now, if you're explaining this to people, you don't want to be negative, about explaining policies, right? So you don't want to say this is not a good policy right away. Especially if someone has a policy, in order, the best way for someone to listen to you is like you gotta sound like an advisor. So never attack anyone with the policies that they have. So always the approach would be, if they ever say, hey, I have a policy that's, I think it's a whole life policy, like, okay, great. Which company is that through? State Farm, awesome. Prudential, good. Yeah, they're definitely a good company. Now, why don't you guys go ahead and grab your policy real quick? I'll be able to take a look at it for you. So they'll bring the policy. If you see universal life insurance, this is how it works, just so you know. So term insurance, typically there is usually 6 different types of terms, right? 30-year term, 20-year term, 15, 10, 5, 4, and maybe a 1-year term, right? Now there are companies that can, they can do a variation term insurance, so you can underwrite any policy. You can underwrite a 35-year term. It's just so you can make up any contract that the company is willing to draw it for you. Make sense? But usually the most common term insurance is going to be a 10-year term, right? So 10-year term. Now typically, let's say we purchase this policy at age 30, right? So with term insurance, guys, usually when we purchase it, it's a lot cheaper initially. But after 10 years, as soon as you turn 40, what happens to the premium? So always let them answer it. Never do a lot of the talking without doing tie downs. Do you see what I'm saying? So this is like sales skills at the same time. So what happens?
It goes up.
You're exactly right. So do you see how you always want to compliment them and make them feel like they're saying the right things? Because so the idea is this: if you program someone to say yes to agree with you, when you show them options, they're not going to say no, because they've been agreeing with you throughout the entire process. Make sense? So yeah, you're exactly right. Usually it goes up. Same thing at age 50. What happens?
Goes up.
Yeah. So typically with term insurance, guys, this is a very good policy, but usually what happens right around age 70 or 65, usually you can't even renew them anymore. A lot of times people don't even want to do it because it becomes so expensive and it becomes a gamble. Now, the problem with term insurance, guys, is all the money that you put into it, if you don't die within that term, what happens to the premiums?
They go away. It's wasted.
Yeah. So basically the company gets to keep it. But again, keep this in mind, guys. That doesn't mean this is a bad policy. Usually this is a policy that you purchase it when you're younger. So what happens is like for example, my wife and I, we have student loans. We have a kid on the way. We're going to buy a house, right? We currently own a condo. So if should something happen to me right now, in order for me to fund everything with whole life insurance, it would be expensive. So that's why it makes sense for me to have a term policy for 10 years until we're in a much better financial situation long term. Make sense? So this is not a bad policy. It's just long term. You have to understand it that, usually the whole life would be more of a long term. Now, guys, whole life insurance, the way it works is this is a guaranteed coverage. This is a little bit more expensive than term, and this also builds guaranteed cash value. So you draw a little cash money thing there, right? So this is a little bit more expensive, but this is why at first it's more expensive. But what happens is you lock in your age and health, and that premium stays the same for the rest of your life. That's a policy that's guaranteed to be there forever. Now, here's how universal policies work, guys. Now, it's important to understand this because these are a little bit tricky, right? So universal policies, the way they work is they also build cash value. And these people that have them will automatically agree with you. They're like, yep, mine builds cash value. But the reason why I say you don't want to attack it right away is because anytime you attack someone, they start to pull up a guard, right? And it makes you seem like you're a cheap salesman. So you don't want to be a cheap salesman. You want to be an advisor that people respect, they trust, and they believe they want to listen to, right? Because if they trust you, they believe you.